In this session, we're going to have a look at a few concepts which are important in terms of getting a firmer grasp of programming. We're going to start our discussion by having a look at operators. And an operator is a symbol that is used to carry out a task. For example, we can use the plus sign to carry out addition. We can use the asterisk or the star to carry out multiplication. Or we can use the double equal sign to test for equality. So we are going to do a quick demonstration in terms of the C++ compiler, just to see how things operate. So we're over here in the C++ compiler. We're going to set it up by ensuring that we have the namespace typed above, so that we don't have to use std over and over in the program. And we're just going to test to ensure that everything is working fine. And once again, we are seeing the hello world, so it means that the thing is configured properly. So let's create a few variables. I'm going to create two integer variables. Let's call the integer variables x and y. And let us put some values into these variables. So let's say in x, we are putting the value 4. And in y, we are putting the value 5. Inside our cout, let's say the sum is equal to, and then we're just going to sum x and y and see what output we are going to get. So remember, whenever we are going to display, we need to use the two less than sign. And in this case, it's just x plus y. And we're going to execute. And it says the sum is equal to 9. Now we anticipate that we would have obtained 9 because 4 plus 5 is indeed equal to 9. What if we use the asterisk instead? Then it should be 5 times 4 equal to 20. So it says the sum is equal to 20. Let's change that to the product is equal to 20. And there we go. So we have just demonstrated the plus and the multiplication. You know that the subtraction is going to work in a similar manner. So I won't be doing that one in terms of demonstration, but I will be looking at the division and I will also be looking at the modulus. So let's change the scenario. Let us say y is divided by x. In other words, 5 is divided by 4, and we are going to execute. And now notice it indicates that the output is 1. And let me change this to division, just so that the message is consistent with what we are trying to accomplish. So it says that the division is equal to 1. However, we know that there's a decimal point that is supposed to be there. And we're not seeing the decimal point. And this is something that is extremely important when we are dealing with division. If it is we're doing an integer division, then what we end up with is an integer result, meaning the decimal portion is not going to be shown. So in this case, the total value should be something like 1.25 if we divide 5 by 4. However, we're only seeing the quotient part. We're not seeing the remainder. If we change the data types to, let's say, for example, float, and we re-execute, then you're now seeing that we're seeing the entire values, 1.25. So we're seeing both the quotient as well as the remainder. So important to note, if it is that the decimal portion or the remainder is important to you, then you need to be doing a real division or a floating point division instead of an integer division. So please make note of that. Integer division only shows quotient and not remainder. And by converse, we're saying that a real division, so whenever we say real, we mean you're either using a float or you're using a double. So that will show both the quotient and the remainder. Okay, so let's now move on to the modulus. So we have 5. We're dividing that by 4. And this time we're using the modulus operator. And let's change the message. And modulus only operates on integers. So let me change that back to integer. So that's the error message that we are getting here. So let's re-execute. So it says then that the modulus is equal to 1. So what does modulus do? Modulus only gives us what remains. So if we divide 5 by 4, then 4 goes into 5 one time, and it leaves a remainder of 1. So let me use 10. So 4 goes into 10 two times, and the remainder that is left is going to be 2. So therefore means that the modulus would be 2. And if I put 11, then 4 goes into 11 two times, and the remainder is going to be 3. So the point that we're making here is that whenever we use the modulus operator, what we get is the remainder. So what if we put y to be 3 and leave x at 4? And we are saying that 3 modulus 4. Then what is the answer going to be? Well, 4 cannot go into 3. So we would say that 4 goes into 3 0 times. And what is the remainder? Well, the remainder is going to be 3 because we will still have 3 items left. So if you visualize that you have 3 items on a table and you're asking yourself, how many groups of 4 can I get out of these 3 items? The answer is you cannot get a group of 4 out of 3 items. But when you look on the table, even though you don't have any groupings, you still have 3 items on the table. So that is what is left. All right, so that takes care of the modulus. And let's now just quickly look at the increment and the decrement. So let's say the answer is equal to, and we are going to increment. So it's x plus plus. Remember, x is 4 currently, And we are trying to increment x by using the plus plus operator. So let's execute. And we're seeing here that it still says that the answer is 4. Now, there is something that we need to be aware of. One is known as pre-increment, and one is known as post-increment. So if I put the plus plus before x, and I re-execute, now notice that it says that the value is 5. The pre-increment says, let us increment first before we execute the command. Whereas the post-increment says, let us execute the command and then we increment. So notice the pre-increment, we increment x first. So x moves from 4 to 5. And by the way, when we increment, it means that we are adding a 1. So we add the 1, we print the answer. Let's go back to the one that we had before. And let's put another C out. And this time we just C out x. So let's execute. And we are seeing 2 values. So let me put a new line so that it becomes clear what we are talking about, because this value looks like 45, but it's not 45. I need to put in my print symbol. All right, so on line 22, we are doing a post increment. So therefore means that it's going to print the answer as 4. But after it prints the answer as 4, then it's going to increment the value in x. So the value in x now becomes 5. So on line 23, when we print the new line and the value in x, we're now seeing that the value in x is actually 5. And once you understand the pre-increment and the post-increment, then you pretty much understand how to do the decrement, because it operates in a similar fashion.